Support for this podcast comes from Frito-Lay and the 2023 Snack Bracket Championship. The Frito-Lay Snack Challenge is underway, and fans are voting on their favorite snacks to crown champion. We're talking about prime-time matchups between the best 64 snacks in the land. Will Ruffles Ridges reign supreme? Can Doritos defend their dynasty? Or will Smart Food use their smarts for a surprise upset? Only you can decide. Get in on all the action for a chance to win up to $1,000 or a year's worth of snacks. Let your snacks be heard. Just go to fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com to vote and enter for a chance to win. No purchase necessary. Sweepstakes ends April 3rd, 2023. Void where prohibited. Year's worth of snacks awarded in the form of 52 coupons, each good for one bag of chips. See official rules at fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com.
This is the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Now, here are your hosts, Jeff Sharon and Eric Lopez.
Welcome to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Fellas, I'm back.
Back.
Guess who's back? Sharon's back. We've got, first of all, before we get started on the show, I have a lot of people. First, I want to thank all the fans who reached out on social media to check on me after the rather painful and frightening medical episode that I had last week. I want to thank the folks at Oviedo Medical Center who took great care of me while I was out. Just to clarify, so everybody knows. So obviously, if you remember, I did not do PA for the football game on Friday, and I was not on the podcast last week because on last Tuesday I got rushed to the hospital with a bleeding ulcer. Trust me when I tell you, it's not because of UCF, nor because of the Giants, but it's something that's been that I
Aaron Boone contract extension.
It wasn't Aaron Boone's contract extension. No, it was something that. So I've been suffering from some really bad back trouble for a while, and I kind of may have taken a little bit too much ibuprofen
on an empty stomach.
And which I think is not what triggered it, but kind of pushed everything over the edge, or at least that's what the GI said. So there I was in the hospital, and then of course in addition I need a back operation, which will happen later this year. But I will be finishing football season. I just want to let everybody know. And starting basketball season for PA, but I'm back here for the podcast because I don't have to, walk around too much. I just got to take it easy, right? That's what they say. You just got to take it easy until I can get to that spinal surgery, and then I should be fine. So, yeah. So I'm basically 80 is what I'm saying. So,
damn,
but I'm glad to be back here.
Lawn.
I know, yeah. I'm glad to be back here with you guys, though. Space Game was a success. A big, huge shout out to Pat Hernan, who filled in for me on rather short notice. Thank you, Pat. Pat's a pro. I've known Pat. All of us have known Pat basically our entire UCF lives because he's, normally the internal press box PA, and he keeps stats, and he's worked with Bright. He works with everybody. He works with the Bucks.
He's good.
He's good. He's such a pro. And Pat, thank you so much. I really appreciate you for picking me up. But it'll be back to your normal role as usual. And I'll be back on the mic in the bounce house on Saturday the 6th for Tulane. So
yeah, I don't know who subbed for Pat inside the press box, but he's not as good as Pat.
Hey, listen, let's be nice. Everyone was forced into action
everything worked out
in difficult
really
circumstances, but it worked out okay. And I'm doing well. And again, thanks to everyone for reaching out. It meant so. Let me tell you something. I was almost in tears last week just seeing because I would wake up from the drug-induced stupor I was in, and I saw all these messages of support, and man, I'm so thankful. Listen, UCF is the biggest university in the country, right? 70,000 plus students. It didn't feel that way to me as a student, and it doesn't feel that way to me now. It is a small place, and you feel like you know everybody. And I'm so thankful to everyone. That's why I fell in love with with the school.
This place.
This place, man. Hashtag this place. Right.
Place.
All right. Enough of the sentimental stuff. Let's get to some football that we need to talk about. All right. Space game against Memphis. Total success. 24-7 win for UCF. Drew, you were there. Eric, you were watching as well. Bryson, you were watching too. And we'll bring Bryson in a little bit for just a little bit here to talk about it. But Drew, I want to start with you. This was not the grind that the ECU game was, but it was kind of grind-ish, and it was the defense that took care of business, and that was kind of nice to watch. Boy, they really stymied Memphis. Now, granted, they have some help because they were running back a quarterback out there, but still, there's no arguing with the 4 turnovers forced and holding your opponent to 7 points.
Well, there's not, but you got to take the fact that Memphis was without Seth Hennigan, and that was a late scratch, and it was an upper body injury, but did not specify exactly.
I've got an upper body injury, but anyway.
I've got an upper body injury. It's called, too many blows to the head or something. I don't know. I hang out with you guys. But I mean, the truth is Peter Parrish comes in, first collegiate action, redshirt sophomore. And he kind of looked the part. He didn't look as uncomfortable as Keene did, but he was skittish. And we expected Memphis to throw the ball a lot, and they did. Parrish 31 of 48 for 215 yards.
48 attempts for your redshirt sophomore quarterback on a short. That's a big ask, man.
And 48 attempts and only 215 yards. So he was the stuff they were completing and gaining wasn't big.
Sacked 6 times, and he was picked 3 times too.
Right. And 2 of those times were really nice tip drills in the end zone.
Yeah.
So, he was sacked 6 times. He lost about 39 yards on those sacks. He still ran the ball for 60 yards net on the ground, 22 carries. He basically was a one-man show. The thing I was surprised about was that they abandoned the running game. Brandon Thomas only carried it 5 times for 19 yards, and he was your lead guy. And they didn't use him. It was really
aside from Parrish, you carried it 22 times, but he only gained 60 yards. So 60 net.
60 net.
I can't freaking stand that college still puts the sack yardage and rush yards. It just drives me crazy. Anyway, sorry.
That's a college flaw, but the truth is 60 net when you take the sacks into consideration. And a lot of those 22 carries were pass plays that he just tucked and ran. Now, there's a couple things I want to point out. One of them was the outside containment, which has been a problem all year. Well, it was not a problem during this game. Most of those, scrambles were stuff up the middle. He tucked the ball and ran up the middle. And while, he was still extremely shifty and was able to avoid a lot of tackles, it wasn't for bad technique. In fact, this was the best technique I've seen this year by far. Good open field tackles. Ricky Barber had a couple big ones in early.
Yeah, Ricky was back. That was good to see.
Yeah, he showed up, and he made a big impact on one particular drive where on 2 different passing plays, Parrish tucked it on a 2nd and 3rd down, tucked it and ran, and on both times, Barber broke off and made an open field tackle, because if he didn't, that's 7, 8, 9 yards easy. Bryson Armstrong had a good game. Devontae Brown had a good game. A lot of sound tackling. I was really
secondary was so good in this game. I'll tell you, I called them on Twitter. I was like, man, all these guys are just absolute studs. And I was really impressed with how well the secondary played. That he had nowhere to go with the football at all. Now I want to flip it to the other side too, Drew, because obviously there are concerns on offense. Believe it or not, Memphis got 7 more first downs than UCF, 24-17. Although to be fair, 6 of those for Memphis were by penalty. 215 rushing yards for UCF to 77 for Memphis on 41 carries as well. But the passing game was a real struggle. Look at the individual marks. Mikey Keene didn't have the best game in the world, 11 and 19 for just 63 yards, 1 touchdown, but 1 interception. He was sacked once. Joey Gatewood was 2 for 2, 17 yards and a touchdown. But
that was just a glorified sweep play.
Yeah, really.
They were basically
that was
forward tosses.
Right. It was a handoff that had to count as a forward pass by technical. Like Ryan O'Keefe, for example, that 17-yard touchdown run counted for 41 of his receiving yards when technically it was a rush. But what was the deal with was it just UCF being out of sync on offense, Drew, or was it something that Memphis was doing?
Well, I mean, this is kind of par for the course, and we've seen this. Keene, doesn't generate yards, and he, the yards per attempt is usually rather low, and a lot of his passes are short. And we saw what happened when he goes deep. The timing's not there, the chemistry's not there. He had one really deep pass that was overthrown into double coverage in the end zone for an interception.
I thought that was his only really bad decision, though, wasn't it?
I would say it was only really bad one, but I mean, he still didn't execute great. But in fairness, it didn't help that the receivers had a number of drops. This was probably one of the worst games that they've had from a drop standpoint this year. Just a lot of key drops, and just no one looked really comfortable. Keene only hit 5 different receivers. They largely abandoned the pass because they didn't have to. They were maintaining the lead. Right. Isaiah Bowser back, still not 100%, but he looked pretty good. 26 carries, 111 yards. The Bowser factor is real.
You can tell he was. I'm glad you said it, because you could tell he wasn't quite what we saw at the beginning of the year, but he's kind of getting back into it.
As he said, every day he's feeling a little bit better. Yeah, but he has work to do.
26 carries. Let's see how much better he feels after that. But
I felt he should have been in the mid to late fourth quarter. They're up 3 scores. I would have taken him out of the game. They were still running him late, and I thought that was a little bit of an unnecessary risk at that point. I would have rather seen more Mark Anthony Richards and just drain the clock. But you only saw him for 1 carry. The thing that I wanted to point out was the big plays. Memphis didn't have any. They had 1 pass of 34 yards. After that, there was no play in the entire game on Memphis' side that hit 20. They had a 19-yard run by Parrish, and that was it. It went down from there. In fact, it took until the second half for anyone to get a 20-yard gain in a single play. I mean, UCF's offense was pretty bad too. And then the running game started to pick up in the second half, which is what you expect. That's like the Navy effect. You run, you wear a defense down. And Memphis had weaknesses in the linebackers, and they started taking advantage of it in the second half. Ryan O'Keefe with the big 31-yard score. You start seeing Johnny Richardson start getting 20-yard carry, and it just makes life a lot easier for the offense, which then makes life easier for the defense because they're getting more and more rest. If I'm correct, the amount this game had more time of possession, I think it was like 28 minutes and change, than any other. And, against East Carolina, it was about 27 and change. And, the defense said that made a difference. That rest is important. So
they held Memphis to 4 of 14 on third downs too.
Right. UCF's third down efficiency
wasn't all that great, 3 of 12, but
it was 2 of 11 until that last third down conversion to ice the game. So that is definitely an area that Coach Malzahn has pointed out that needs a lot of work. As if anyone's satisfied with that, you've got a problem.
Yeah. Well, perfect timing. You get to go to Temple.
Yeah. What a way to get the ship
Yeah, I mean,
righted.
This is the stretch that you've been looking for. Now you got to go to Philadelphia. It's the day before Thanksgiving, the day before Halloween, Saturday at noon kickoff on ESPN Plus against the.
Shout out to Leger Duzerbo. Be calling the game there for ESPN.
Okay, Leger's doing the. Okay, good. I like that. So
plus it'll be an early night. It'll be an earlier night shift, so we don't have to go to bed at like midnight.
We'll call it mid-afternoon shift.
So I want to pull up the info on Temple right now because they're having a rough go of it. To say the least here.
They gave up 421 yards to Temple. They made it look like USF had Marlon Mack back.
USF,
right?
rather, you mean?
Yeah, USF, whatever they are. I don't even know.
Yeah.
These are two alleged football programs that really shouldn't have football programs. Probably should consider other sports.
Hey,
wow.
USF is setting themselves up for a tough competition, just scheduling a home and home with UConn. Hey, they're scheduling up.
Yeah, someone had to get that one in there. So Temple right now is 3-4. UCF on the road is a 10.5 point favorite right now. And 68% of the money, according to Oddshark, is on UCF. By the way, funny story.
68%. I think that's a little low.
Well, funny story. Yesterday, all right. So, or not yesterday, but on Sunday, the Giants were playing the Carolina Panthers, and PJ Walker entered the game late for the Panthers, and I my back seized up again because I heard that guy's name again. I'm like, oh my god! I started having bad flashbacks. But PJ's not at Temple anymore, obviously. And here we are. So the chance for UCF to get another W here, to get to 5-3. All right, with Tulane coming in on homecoming on November the 6th. You could possibly be. I don't want to look too far ahead here, but I'm going to do it anyway. Good possibility of being 6-3 heading into that SMU game on November the 13th. And as I check over on Twitter, Dylan Gabriel's Twitter account is showing a few still photographs of him working with, I think that's GJ Kinney over there, and with his helmet on and working on his drops. And I think he's probably trying to work his way back into the fold. So Drew and Eric and Bryson, and we'll start with Drew here. What do you think the odds are that we might see Dylan Gabriel for the SMU game possibly?
Well, I think the chances keep getting better and better. Traditionally that kind of injury takes, 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks.
6 to 8 weeks, right.
And
the first 4 weeks, I remember from our time, you got to basically just do nothing but keep it in a sling.
Right. 8 weeks essentially is SMU weekend. So,
right.
Do the math. If he's not available to go SMU, expect him for UConn the following week, which is, the week before Black Friday.
Nice little tune-up before Black Friday, right?
Well, tune-up. You make it sound like that, they're facing a tough team. Obviously SMU, the only team with a winning record, still remain on the schedule. Temple is the next closest at 3-4, and then it just goes downhill from there. You don't expect him for the next couple games. You don't want to rush him. But that SMU game, if there's a time that you want Dylan Gabriel back, that's the one.
Yeah.
Because if you actually look at the standings, and to say it's likely is the biggest stretch of all stretches. But UCF technically is not out of this.
Here we go.
No, Eric, don't you dare.
Don't let the fans.
You're thinking
we're
like
not
a fan.
doing that.
You got to think it like a player, in which we still have something to play for.
Yeah, that's fine. But here's the thing: in all seriousness, they need to focus on the Temple game because
I'm not saying they're not.
We're acting like this team could just show up and beat Temple. Well,
never said that.
I think, to me, the Dylan thing.
We never said that. Vegas did. But
I think the Dylan thing. I think he's going to come back because he doesn't want another year. Like people are like, wow, this could give him 3 years. No, he ain't sticking around for 3 years.
No, he doesn't want to stick here for 2022. I don't blame him for wanting to move on.
Yeah.
But the truth is, if he doesn't get meaningful playing time, he's not going to cut it in the NFL from the draft standpoint, because he needs to shake off the Heupel system issue, and he hasn't had much opportunity to do that.
I'll make a counterpoint to that. He doesn't turn 21 until December. He's still 20 years old. And if I'm an NFL scout, like I'm looking at, and listen, if he wants to go, God bless him, go for it, chase your dream. But if I'm an NFL scout, I'm like, I need more data.
That's what this year was supposed to be.
That's what this year was supposed to be. But here we are.
Well, he can get that data though if he comes back here towards the end.
Are you sure?
I don't know if he's going to get enough.
Let's say he comes back for SMU. Not, okay, SMU is really the only quality team you play.
Yeah,
it's a UConn.
Trey Lance got drafted 3rd for playing one game. Like we're acting like these scouts. Yes, one game. He played one game and he got the third. He moved up to the 3rd pick. You would think only playing one game would hurt your stock. It actually helped his stock, which is bizarre.
That's bizarre.
You're playing. You could be playing UConn, which is a glorified scrimmage, and then you're playing South Florida at home
and a bowl game,
which is slightly more than that, and a bowl game,
which is where most quarterbacks really get evaluated, and their stock either goes way up or down.
Okay, I see. All right, I see what you mean. Well,
this is why a quality bowl game is so important, and I think the win against Memphis really helped with that.
I agree with that. And I think that's why he's coming back, and you might have Jalen Robinson coming back too at the same time. And look, he might come. And by the way, he might. I'm not saying he's going to definitely leave. I'm saying he might come back and play next year. I'm saying he ain't going to be the quarterback in 2023 when they're in the Big 12. He ain't sticking around for that.
No. I think we both.
Hold on. I actually have a question about that. There are kind of two things. The first big thing that coming with this team in the future, because I took a look at this and I wanted to make sure that we got it, because I'm wondering if with the season where it is. I took a look in 2018 when the NCAA changed the medical redshirt rule. This is what it says: the NCAA has 2 requirements for medical redshirt. The injury must have occurred in the first half of the season, and the athlete must have competed in less than 30% of the season. So the first half of that is fulfilled. He had it in the Louisville game. That was in the first half of the season. We're approaching the 30% of the season mark because he's competed in 3 games, the Boise, Bethune, and Louisville. So my question is that when you weigh this, do you think that preserving another season of eligibility for Dylan Gabriel down the line, or do you go and play him back now? Because you only have UConn and USF. But
I don't think there's a point.
Mikey Keene.
I don't think you need it. He's a junior,
right?
It's not like
he didn't burn the regular red shirt yet either.
And he's never used a red shirt, so he's a true junior. So I don't think it really plays a material role in this. It's more of, just how's his stock looking, how's he feeling and everything like that. There's no way he sticks until 2023.
No way. Because the longer you stay, actually your stock gets hurt more.
Right. Because then the narrative becomes, what's the matter with him?
Correct.
Leinart syndrome.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an extreme. Yes. I mean, that's a good. Matt Leinart actually stock dropped by coming back an extra year. So sometimes staying is longer, but I think he wants to come back. I think they want to finish strong. They definitely want to win that last game of the season. I think that's important.
Oh, yeah.
And I think, look, they get Jalen Robinson back. But in the meantime, running the football with Bowser, I mean, USF gave you the recipe how to beat Temple. Run the football down the throats. It's not going to be exciting. This game is going to be boring. I would suggest entertaining yourself during the game because it's going to, this game will set football back 10 years. But with the defense,
says the guy who hates passing, but anyway.
Well, we can't throw with this. Right now, we can't throw. We can't throw. I mean, that's just the reality.
Well, you can throw, but I think the big thing is you got to throw to playmakers. Mikey Keene can be an adequate game manager, but we've seen that he's maybe not really the best playmaker like Dylan Gabriel is. What we've seen with Isaiah Bowser, that bruiser back, and having him back in that workhorse role really played a big difference, I think, in this.
Well, here's the thing, right? We get right. Let me just say this: you get caught up in hey, are they excited? Are they opening the ball up or not? The most important thing from an offensive standpoint is make sure your best players get the ball. And that's what the coaching staff did. They got Isaiah Bowser the ball, and they got Ryan O'Keefe the ball. And that's why they beat Memphis. And that's the key moving forward. Is it going to be artistic to some? Probably not. But it doesn't matter, because as long as you get your best players the ball, that's the key to recipe to success. And for years before this, Dylan Gabriel was your best player. So you let him air it out 45 times because he was your best player. Currently, at this stage, the quarterback is not your best player. So you adapt, and that's what the staff has done.
And you need, as I alluded to before, you need a good bowl game to really kind of put a bow on it. And you need a good matchup. So, UCF's going to want to hope for one of 4 games. That's the Birmingham Bowl, the Fenway Bowl, the Military Bowl, and the Gasparilla Bowl, because those on contract, on paper, are against Power 5 opponents. So you want something that has a little more cachet behind it, and you're not going to get that playing, Podunk U in the Cure Bowl. So that win
sounds like Drew's warming up his bowl projections. He's warming.
It's coming. So. I actually had UCF picked for the Military Bowl before the season started. I'm still sticking with that right now. And that win against Memphis is really helped. I think that took them out of contention for the Hawaii Bowl, which is a good thing. UCF does, you don't want UCF in the Hawaii Bowl. Sure, it's good for some players for a homecoming. It's bad for everything else. That's a 9,000 seat stadium. That's essentially high school quality that they're playing at, because the Aloha Bowl is being demolished and rebuilt, and it's going to be
it's expensive. And it's expensive.
Aloha Stadium.
Aloha Stadium torn down, building a new one. It's going to be at least 3 years for that to come up. And Hawaii is working on expanding this current little stadium just to seat 15,000 next year. And this is not a place you want to go for a bowl game.
But it's expensive right now. That's the last thing you want to do post where you're dealing with post budget issues with pandemics and stuff. You don't want to be going out to Hawaii and blow up your finances. I mean, it's expensive bowl game to go to.
And all these other 4, Alabama, Tampa, Florida, Boston, Massachusetts, and Annapolis, those are all very, very, attainable locations all across the eastern side. So that would be more attractive for UCF. It'd be good for fans to be able to get to. I like the idea of Fenway or Annapolis. I think Annapolis is better because, you don't have to play in a baseball stadium, which there's something fundamentally wrong with that. After so many games in Tropicana Field, thankfully, no games.
You traditionalist, you.
Well, I used to cover the East-West Shrine game, and they would have their games in Tropicana Field. It was just a terrible place.
Listen, I like the Trop for baseball.
It's good for baseball, but it's not for football.
Right. But playing a college football game in Fenway Park, even I admit, as a Yankee fan, that's kind of cool.
Well, you should go to the Pinstripe Bowl.
That's even cooler. so,
I just want the stadiums to implode, but that's neither here nor there.
Well, says the Indians fan in the room. Yes. But listen, there are a lot of options here. Okay. And I think that's I think that's a good thing. But
you got to start with beating Temple here. Let's
beat Temple, beat Tulane.
Jalen Robinson is practicing. I mean, we've been getting Ricky Barber back. We have Isaiah Bowser back.
Yep.
So
hopefully, but surely the wounds from that Louisville game are healing. Nature is recovering.
But are the emotional wounds healing?
I don't know. That's still.
Now here's the real question for you guys to think about. Could it be possible that they end up with a rematch against the Louisville Cardinals in one of those bowl games?
Oh,
they'll never. They don't do bowl rematches.
No. See, the worst thing that ever happened was like Florida and Florida State rematched in a couple bowl games, and everyone thinks that.
Well, that was
atrocity.
That was a travesty in itself, and being an Ohio State
Travis
fan,
Shamockery.
The Travis Shamockery. I love it.
Well, there's way too much bowl talk.
I blame Ohio State for that because
it is almost November.
I grew up as a Buckeye fan, but that they won that Rose Bowl, and it should have been Arizona State, and Arizona State should have won the national title, and there should have been no question about it.
It's your fault. It's Ohio State's fault.
Yeah, you did it.
Ohio State's fault. I watched that game.
Jake Plummer, man.
Anyway,
Jake you guys owe Jake Plummer something. I don't know what it is, but you owe him something.
An
Yeah.
NFL
Anyway.
contract.
Yeah, a couple of gigantic NFL contracts, let me tell you. All right. Well, once again, to reiterate for those of you watching at home, it will be UCF against Temple on ESPN Plus, noon on Saturday on ESPN Plus. So UCF looks to get the victory over the 3-4 Temple Owls. And Drew, you're raising your hand. Why?
Yes, I just want to point out some. We talked about this past week being the space game. It was
Here we go.
Brandon Hellwig made sure to ask everyone who came up what they thought about the space game.
Oh,
There it is. There it is.
So this is
There
where our
it
season's
is.
been reduced to, huh?
There it
That's-
is.
That's
Hey, hey.
great.
Big Cat
That's
Brian said,
great.
"I wish I had more years of eligibility so I can play in more of these games." But the big thing was everyone dug the chrome face mask, which was a new thing for UCF. It was a new
Chrome
twist.
face mask was good. I liked it.
It worked. I mean, the
Drew,
helmet
you
worked.
got okay. Real quick, let's do the review of the uniforms right now.
Okay.
You, Drew, you're the expert on this. We've had 5 of them. Where does this one rank?
I put this one kind of slightly into third, but not for anything that they did. A part of it is, with the white helmet issue that UCF's having this year, it kind of handicaps things a little bit. The
Mhm.
chrome decal, in my opinion, did not work with the white helmet because you couldn't.
Yeah, it
see
doesn't pop. It doesn't pop. Yeah.
But I can't really blame them for that. That's not UCF's fault. There was a fire at the factory, and UCF stuck with very limited supply. That's why all the helmets have been white this year. The supply, they just don't have any others. The uniform itself was incredibly clean, by far the cleanest of all the uniforms that they've worn so far. It just matched really well. I thought the numbers, the creativity of the numbers was one of the most
The
innovative
shuttle
things.
tiles. That was
Yeah.
pretty cool.
That was one of the most innovative things they've done in all the 5 years that they've done this. I still put 2018 as the bar. That's still the top dog. Was top to bottom, just the complete package. 19 a little behind that, and then 21 followed by 20, and of course 17 was just a regular uniform with a patch on it. They didn't have that kind of mindset until the next year, but it was a good uniform. It was a good uniform. Obviously a one-time use, and I'm looking forward to what they can do next time because there could be a new manufacturer. Now, granted, all the designs are done in-house. So, you work with
It's all
with-
in-house.
It's all in-house. So I while it's, comes out on a Nike jersey, the designing is all done within UCF's, branding facility.
Yeah. The factory in the back. It's pretty cool. A couple things I would love to see. Next year, all right, 2022. So we're looking at, let's see, what sort of, I'm pretty good at knowing your space anniversaries, right? So 1972 was the last Apollo mission to the moon.
And which you had those moon helmets, don't you?
I'm interested to see what they decide to commemorate. This year, obviously, was the space shuttle because it was 40 years since the first space shuttle launch in 1981, which was Columbia. Obviously, we didn't tribute Columbia; we tributed Discovery this year, but it was space shuttle themed. 72, 67, 67 is Apollo 1. You don't want to really, commemorate that. With a football game per se. 62. This is what I'd like to see. 1962. All right, was John Glenn's first orbital flight. For the first American to orbit the Earth, February 20th, 1962. I would love to see a Mercury 7 themed UCF space uniform. And the right stuff kind of thing. And I would love to see, I need more Canaveral blue in my life.
Yes.
I would love to see, we probably won't do it because it is a accent color, right? But I would love to see a Canaveral blue helmet or a Canaveral blue jersey or something. It would be just to see what it looks like, because I think that would be so cool. I love Canaveral blue. I have rooms. I'm thinking of painting my office Canaveral blue. That's how much I like it.
I'm right with you. Okay, you want me to tell you what my favorite uniform is?
Go for it.
My favorite is last year's, because the 2020 Space Game uniform, in my opinion, made the best use of Canaveral blue in the entire thing. And my big thing with uniforms is contrast to make things pop, and the black helmets with the gray uniforms, and then accented. And in my opinion, that was the best accenting use of Canaveral blue out of all the space uniforms.
Wait, you didn't like the blue space laser that 18 used? Oh, that was beautiful.
Well, the thing
I even got my socks.
In my opinion, that uniform's cool. But the problem for me is that I just think it's too dark. There isn't the contrast there to make it pop like the 2018 one or the 2021 does. And this one I can understand from, their supply chain issues. And I did like the space shuttle theming, so because the space shuttle was kind of mostly white, so I think that was that kind of worked for the theme. But as far as looks go, I think so far nothing is beat 2020 is the one that's the best one for me.
I guarantee all of you that whatever it is that we're going to be working on next year, they're already working on it.
Oh, they're probably working a couple of years ahead at this point.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Speaking of a couple of years ahead.
Yeah, they might be working on 2023. You're actually right now. You're right, Drew.
Going into the Big 12, I'm going to be a huge advocate for this if we can do it. I feel like that if we have an annual game with Houston, we need to make that game the space game.
Well, we have to first find out if we're going to go north-south. Are they going to east?
Yeah, we got a lot to sort out there first. What other teams might
like where you're going.
What other teams may enter? Who knows? If the Big 12 goes to 14 or 16, that may be a possibility. We don't know. That's quite far afield. But Bryson, I agree with you, and I've gone on the record about that too. I would love to see a sort of space rivalry between UCF and Houston, between Cape Canaveral and Johnson Space Center.
I think only Eric was the one who didn't agree on that idea the last time we brought it up.
Eric doesn't agree with anything having to do with this.
What? I'm sorry. What? I've toned down. I've tuned out.
Eric doesn't agree with
it. Yeah,
he doesn't want to listen about uniforms. No.
Canaveral blue. It's not even our school colors, but sure, let's use it. All right, great.
I mean, it's cool to have a change of pace.
Stop being a curmudgeon.
Hey, I have in my closet of jerseys a signed Lehigh Valley cheesesteak uniform. They're not the cheesesteaks. Normally it was a one-time thing. It just happens to be Ben Lively's jersey that is signed. UCF alum. But I mean, minor league baseball teams do it all the time. I have one that changed their name from the Tourists to Beer City, and I'm from another that changed their name to the Bunghammers. And come on, Fresno Grizzlies become the Fresno Tacos. I mean, there's nothing wrong with changing your name for special events. And if you're going to do it, go all out. In fact, I don't think UCF does enough for the space game. The field needs changing.
Couple things on this. Number one, my wife hit it right on the head, because every year this comes up, and the question is, why don't we just change to the Citronauts all the time?
No.
And my wife hit it on the head. She said, if you change to the Citronauts, it's like leaving your Christmas lights up year round. It takes away the specialness of it. So keep the specialness of it. But what I would like to see is a Citronaut night for every sport. Okay. We're seeing it with soccer. We've seen it with baseball. We've seen it with men's basketball. I want to see it have we seen it in women's, Eric?
No.
I don't think we have. I'd like to see it for women's basketball. I'd love to see it for volleyball. I'd love to see it for
I'd rather see facility upgrades than
I'd love to see a softball Citronauts uniform.
Yeah, I want facility upgrades. It's
not a huge investment to do, especially if you actually look at the basketball.
I'd love it against Houston. I'd love it against Houston for conference play.
The basketball ones, I mean, we see them. They're not really over the top. They don't
have to be.
They don't have to be. They're kind of plain, but they highlight a different name, a different color. What I want to see, and maybe when there's a little extra money from the Big 12, I want to see on the football field. I want to see that block UCF removed. I want to see a Citronaut.
This is your fault, JP Gilbert. It's your fault.
No, I want to see the end zones in different colors.
With the Citronaut script in the end zone, that would be hot.
Oh, that would be really hot. But
for the female,
or even just knots. But if space is an issue, but I mean, if you're going to do it, do it all the way. Buy into it fully. You are not the UCF Knights that day. You are the UCF Citronauts. Just buy into it and just go all out. Have fun with it. I know that's expensive when you're repainting the field and everything, and you got to get new stencils designed and all that other stuff. Okay, wait till you have a little extra cash, maybe 2024, 2025. But I would love to see UCF do that.
One other thing that I want to. Oh, go ahead, Bryson.
First of all, calling it the Knots is just basically just saying Knights in an Australian accent. I will die on that hill. Secondly, we mentioned the female sports doing a space game. Sally Ride, the first U.S. woman in space, went up on June 18th, 1983. That anniversary is going to be coming in 2023.
Great point.
So if there's a time,
and we did honor women from UCF in the space program this past weekend. You know what, Bryson, great call. We should honor Sally Ride and all the women who have made tremendous contributions to the U.S. space program over the years. By the way, speaking of which, before we go to break, I should note our friends at Breaking Tea came out with a Citronaut shirt. All right. And it's great. While supplies last, you can actually go ahead and check one out. Officially licensed UCF gear. And by the way, I want to thank the guys at Breaking Tea, and I want to thank UCF too for brokering that deal where we have officially licensed gear now, UCF gear on Breaking Tea. For UCF, including a new Citronaut shirt that says Bryson Turner, "Let's go Knots." So, I love the consistency. Fantastic.
If we have any Australian fans, nothing changes. They just say the same thing.
I love it. So when we get back, all right. So again, kickoff for Temple noon. Chance for UCF to get to 5-3, and 3-2 in the American before homecoming against Tulane the week after. So, all right, when we come back, Caroline DeLisle, UCF women's soccer goalkeeper. She has followed in the footsteps of some of the greatest UCF athletes of all time, putting the mitts on for UCF women's soccer. We get to talk with her in a moment and talk about UCF women's soccer and where they stand in the chase for the NCAA tournament when we return. This is the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. We'll be right back.
Today's episode is brought to you by Cars.com. With over 2 million vehicles and 50,000 more added every day, Cars.com will match you with the perfect car for you, your budget, your life, your style. And if you're ready to say goodbye to your current car, Cars.com will get you an instant offer to cash it in. Just start by entering your license plate and get matched with a local dealer who will write you the check. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, just go to Cars.com. It's magical.
All right, welcome back to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Jeff Sharon, Eric Lopez, Bryson Turner back with you here. And let's talk a little women's soccer. Caroline DeLisle is the goalkeeper for UCF women's soccer. And Eric, as we've talked about several times on this show, she follows in the footsteps of some greats, but she is well on her way to establishing her own foothold in the UCF record books when it comes to who the greatest goalkeepers are in UCF women's soccer history. And it's a long line, isn't it?
It really is. When you think of UCF women's soccer, one of the most premier positions, not only in the women's pro soccer program, but in all of UCF athletics, is the goalkeeper.
Yeah, that's like center field for the New York Yankees, man, right? Yeah. It's like, yeah.
Yeah. Let me just give you names. Kim Wyant, Karen Richter, Alyssa O'Brien, Jennifer Manis, Alina Reyes, most recently Vera Veras. That's the company that you saw, just a few of the greats that have been behind the net. The next one here is Caroline DeLisle, who stepped in as a freshman in 2019. Now she's looking to lead UCF back to the NCAA tournament for the first time since 2017 and add her legacy. She's having a monster season. Earlier this week, Bryson Turner and myself had a chance to talk to Caroline about the legacy of the UCF goalkeeping and how did a girl from Tampa end up at UCF? And especially, what's it like?
Question.
Yeah, we ask her that. Plus, what's it like being recruited by a gold medalist and a World Cup champion? Those are some of the topics that we hit up with Caroline DeLisle on the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. And welcome here on Black and Gold Banneret. Joining us now, she's the star goalkeeper for UCF soccer, fresh off a nice 5-0 win over Temple. Of course, speak of Caroline DeLisle joins us here. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. How has this fall been like? Obviously, a tough schedule, one of the toughest schedules in the country, but you got some great wins. You're coming off now a nice win over Temple. You're kind of back on rhythm here. It's been a difficult schedule, highs and lows, but describe this season.
Yeah, I think you nailed it on the head there. Just a season of highs and lows for sure. I think the tougher schedule gets us all excited. Like, that's what we want our schedule to look like. And we know that Tiff sets that up for us because she knows that we can compete with these best teams in the country. And so it's been great. I think we're all, especially after last year, just thankful to have a season and be able to travel and play these teams. And so, yeah, it was tough to just head into conference, starting with, Houston's has a great season this year. So starting with them, and then Memphis and USF. So I think just like getting those competitions out of the way, and then back up on an upswing in the end of a conference season. So it's been good. I think the team has looked really great throughout the season. And we, like I said, are all just happy to be together and be able to have some freedom and have a normal season. So it's been good. Yeah.
You mentioned a normal season. Obviously, the spring was anything but normal. It was unique. Didn't go the way, obviously, you would have liked to have gone. Yet, it's so weird. You had a season in the spring and a season in the fall. Take me through that process. Having a season in the spring, and because normally you would have a spring season where you're practicing and you have some exhibitions, and but here you had a sprint in the spring of sorts, and then all of a sudden you have a quick turnaround and coming back in the fall in August. What was that like?
It was different for sure. Those of us who had been around, it's pretty different than what a spring and then summer would look like. But so it was tough to just kind of we didn't really have a time just to get a break, but I don't think any of us really wanted one since we had one for so long over COVID and then not having it over the fall. So definitely we had to be more intentional just how we were taking care of our bodies and being more intentional with the rest that we needed to get. But I think most of us were just fired up that, especially with spring not going as well as we had hoped, I think that just put a fire underneath us that over the summer, I know a lot of us were on summer league teams here and then training with each other at our own place. And so I think it was just obviously it's different than we'd ever done, but I think it just kind of motivated us and set us up really well heading into this season. And we had been together all spring and summer, which is kind of rare. And so we had a lot of time as a team to be together. And so that was great. So, yeah.
So you're in your third season now as goalkeeper for this UCF women's soccer team. Can you talk about how UCF caught your eye and how you end up choosing to come here?
Yeah, so the recruiting process is crazy, obviously. But I think that UCF, initially I was I'm from Tampa, so I was I'm getting out of Florida. I don't want to stay in Florida. But then I was I couldn't really come home, except for summer and Christmas. And I didn't really like that. So, I loved how UCF is close to Tampa, and my family can be at games and stuff. And then just this family environment at UCF, I could feel that even from being recruited. Tiff and Tim obviously are great. And then Chris, the goalkeeper coach, he's the one who's recruited me throughout my whole experience. And so he and I have had a great relationship from the beginning. And I think it was really cool being recruited by UCF because a lot of schools are you have 2 weeks to decide or you have a week to decide and give us a commitment. But Tiff's I don't see the point in that where it's I want you to really take your time to figure out where you want to be. And I thought that was I really respected that and just being she really cares that I want to be here and not commit to fit a timeline. And so I think from the beginning, it was just clear that they cared about me as a person and me as a player. And then UCF as a school, I just really loved. I loved. Obviously, I came in 2018, so I was came in right with all the hype with 2017 football season and stuff, and so that was fun. So I just really liked the school and the location and the soccer side of everything. And UCF has had a really good reputation of creating really amazing goalkeepers, and so I wanted to be a part of that legacy, and so here I am.
Now, I've always been fascinated, and you're the perfect person to find this out. As you get recruited and stuff, when you meet Coach Sahadak, are you aware of her accomplishments and who she is from a legendary player? And more importantly, are your parents, I would imagine, are aware from her World Cup and Olympic success? Take me through that interaction from that standpoint, because, her resume is above and beyond many coaches.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I think all of us were aware of it. Like, even looking back, like with my teammates and stuff, we're all like, walking into a head coach's office as a high schooler is like intimidating enough. And like just knowing who Tiff is. And so, but it's like, it was so cool because like my parents knew as well, just because we had talked about it. Cause I mean, it's hard not to talk about her past. And so we all knew, but then you meet her and she's just like the most like humble and like is not like, doesn't exude like this, like, I don't know. She's just like, so like caring and kind, and it's not like, oh, like she knows that she's like really impressive and all this stuff. And so it was really cool to be like, I know that she has all these like this past that's been so incredible, but it's still like she's still with all of that like cares about me, and so like it's really cool. But yeah, so it was definitely intimidating walking in and just knowing who she was and what she's done, but it just adds to like my like being impressed with her and how impressive she is, just because that she can handle all of that and still be such an amazing person just as she is. And so yeah, it definitely added some pressure walking into the office that day, but she never lets it get to her head or anything, so it's pretty cool.
That's pretty good. Now, you mentioned earlier about the goalkeeping legacy. Which is legit. I mean, it's one of the most legendary positions in all of UCF athletics, going back to the history of UCF goalkeepers. I mean, there's a ton of them. Alini Reyes got inducted into the Hall of Fame. I think it was right around your sophomore year when she got inducted. You mentioned you followed Vera Veras, who had a Hall of Fame type career herself.
Right.
And I remember that because when you walked in and your friend, after you redshirted, that was the big question. You followed it. When you say you were aware of the legacy, describe that, how much you knew about the legacy of goalkeepers, because it's a who's who. They've had goalkeepers that have played internationally, played in the Olympics, all over the world, globally, and you're following a great, you walk in to great goalkeeping. I mean, the standards are high. What is that like?
I think it was like, I didn't even think that I realized the history of it. I just knew that Vera was there. And I just remember my freshman year going in and like my family and people who knew not quite as much about soccer were like, yeah, like, will you go in and play? And I'm like, there's an All-American there. Like, I'm just going in and trying to learn everything I can at first. So no, but yeah, I think it was just like, I think once I got there, I realized like, how far back the legacy of goalkeepers went. And then, yeah, there was a lot of conversations between Chris and I once it was like me taking over Vera's spot and just like what that entails. And then he's been like, he and I have sat down, had conversation. He's like, the legacy of what we've had here. Right. And I'm like, well, now I know. But it's just like, I think it's such an honor to be a part of that. Like, just like, even getting to like wear the jersey and be in the goal for this team and what that like entails. And so it's been really cool just to learn more and more about it and then get to be a part of it has been awesome. And like I said, learn from Chloe and Vera. And so it's been a really cool spot to be in, and definitely an honor just to be in the same spot as some of those people. So
what are some of the things you learned from Vera that you took with you that's helped you through your career? And I'm sure, do you feel like a responsibility to pass that on to the next goalkeeper, whoever follows you down the road, to pass on this tradition, kind of like a bonding there of, hey, not only is this you're in a great program, but this is a great, legendary position that we play, and an honor to get to wear this. This is what it takes to be successful.
Yeah, I for sure feel that responsibility. I think Vera taught me a lot of things. I think just her like intensity and like intentionality in training I had never seen before. I think like a lot of freshmen in college get there and they're like, throughout our careers, like we've just kind of naturally been able to do stuff. And so, which I don't want to sound like braggy, but like, it's just kind of like we're athletic. And so we could kind of breeze through trainings and stuff like that. But Vera, like she very much could, but like she took it to another level of like, I'm going to get better every day at something. And was the most like intentional and like thoughtful at training of like what she was doing. And so I came in as a freshman and I was just like flying all over the place. I didn't know what I was doing. Like technique was kind of like, we were still getting there. And so I think that was super cool just to see like, oh, she comes in every day and like is focusing on something specific to get better at. And it was like, that is what I want my trainings to look like. And then I think just like her commitment to the game and her like intensity and competitiveness was unmatched. And so I think just like, that's the type of present. I think that's what I'm looking for. Her presence was incredible. And those who played against her and who played with her could feel that presence. And that's what I wanted to have. And so, yeah, I think for sure, just passing that on to the goalkeepers that will follow me, just like, it's like an honor to be in this spot. And it should be our privilege to work and give our 100% every day and keep the legacy going.
Saves is one of them. How are you different now than you were, say, as a freshman? Because Coach Tiff told me when I talked to her about you that you're more vocal leader now, that you're taking more ownership. Because when you came in, you were surrounded by a great experienced group, especially in the back line, protecting you, like a plumber, Kanye Plumber, and others in the back line are tremendous. But now you've kind of been the veteran now. So you're taking more vocal. Is that accurate? How have you changed as a player?
Yeah, I think that is the most true statement. I mean, I remember my sophomore year, Chris and I always like meet up at halftime and then after the game to just kind of figure out what adjustments need to be made or whatever. And every halftime it was like, just keep talking more. And I had like Kanya and incredible veterans that I could kind of ride the coattails of. And so I could get away with it. But so that was a huge learning year where I like could try things and like really try to put myself out there and could still had Kanya an amazing backline to rely on. But yeah, that has been I'm not naturally a super like loud or like, I don't love yelling, but like, it's very much come into like, I can do, even my parents on the sidelines are like, who is that girl that's like demanding on the field and like commanding, it's really come a long way. And so, yeah, I think that's like been my biggest form of like growth in my own personal career is just like, and like, coming in and being like, I feel like for a long time, I didn't feel like I had the right to like tell people what to do because I'm like, I don't know, like, but just like finding that confidence in myself and in my teammates and building that trust with them where we can have these conversations of like them like trusting me on the field to tell them where they need to be or just like, cause I can see everything, just telling them what they need to know. So yeah, it's definitely been a growing experience for sure.
Tell us about the mindset of a goalkeeper, because I've always been fascinated by the position. I've talked to Alina Reyes about it. I've talked to Vera about it. I've talked to others about it because, you could go a match where you don't see a shot for like 80, 90 minutes.
Yep.
Then there's matches where you'll get peppered with a ton of shots. And then there's a mixture. It's a unique position. It's because there's a lot of mental games they're played with that, right? A focus standpoint. Just take us through that haven't been between the net and that mindset and the that approach as a goalkeeper, because it's such a unique position. Yeah,
I think outside of like my communication, I think that's my other area that I've grown the most because it is 100% a mental position. Like you said, being able to stay in the game for 90 minutes, whether you're getting shot on every 5 minutes or you get one shot in the 89th minute, like just being able to stay locked in the entire time. And then I think just like the mentality of the position where it's like, I struggled a long time with like, I get scored on, kind of like fall in a hole for a few minutes and then like dig myself back out. But it's like, we don't have time for that. Like we got to go like, and so it's very much just like being able to have something that like drives you through the whole game. So Chris and I talk a lot about like a mantra to keep us going through the game. And so for me, it's very much like stay present. And then I always tell myself it's a 0-0 game, and just focus on what I can do. And so that's very much like where I've found that I do the best, because whether we're up 3-0 or down 3-0, I can't start thinking about what this means for conference or what this means for something else. Like I just need to stay in it for 90 minutes. And so that helps me just kind of lock into the zone and just stay where I need to be. Because like you said, it's so mental. And so, yeah, it takes a lot to kind of figure out what works for you and like figuring out your mantra, but it's a huge part of being a goalkeeper. So
but one match that stands out, SMU on the road, 11 saves, which was a phenomenal match. Me and Bryson were watching the match live, and some of the saves you made was incredible. And that was, I thought, a pivotal moment in the season for your team, because you earned a point against a really good SMU team that's been ranked all year. And Bryson, correct me if I'm wrong, those 11 saves, no UCF goalkeeper has had that many saves since the late 90s. That we looked up, or 2000s. Bryson has that info, but take me through that match in particular, because you were like locked in the zone, and SMU has some weapons there. But that was, I thought, a big moment, because that was during that stretch there where there were some bumps in the road in the conference, because this league is strong this year, maybe the strongest it's ever been. But that was a huge moment, I thought, for this season, and you were fantastic in that match.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a fun one for sure. I think like our mentality going into that game is like, we were tired of losing. And so I think my mentality was like, we will not lose this game. Like we are not walking out of here without at least a point. And so, yeah, it was great. I kept saying after the game, like, they just kind of kicked the ball at me a lot. And so obviously there were some crazy saves, but my back line made my life easy a lot of the time. So, but yeah, it was definitely a turning point, and just like showed like the character and the heart of this team, where it was like, we are going to will it out and turn this season around. And so, but yeah, it was a fun game. Honestly, it was one of those where like, there are some games where it's like, yeah, this really is just fun. And so obviously we wish we could have walked away with 3 points instead of 1, but it was just a great like team effort, and just like obviously 110 minutes of grit and fighting from our team. So it was nice to walk away with a point. And like you said, was a turning point for the season. So
is that a match? I mean, you always hear from athletes. I've always talked to athletes, pro and college athletes, about being in the zone. Mm-hmm. Does that apply here as a goalkeeper? Does that match apply? Because I mean, there were some of the best saves I've seen any goalkeeper have was in that match. Was that like close to being in the zone for you there? Did you feel like we were locked in?
Yeah, I did. I wouldn't say it was like I've definitely been like very much in the zone, where it's like I said at that USF game, where it was just like there was no other thoughts in my brain. So I think like it was very close to being just completely in the zone. But yeah, it was just one of those where it's just one of those where like your brain can, like, you've trained so much where like your body can just kind of take over, which is the best feeling as like a player, where it's like I've put in the work and like my body knows what to do and my brain knows what to do. And so, but yeah, it was just one of those where it was just like things were going my way. And so it's a great place to be in as a goalkeeper for sure.
I would say things going your way in that match would be an understatement, because because 11 saves is your career high, and you became the first UCF goalkeeper to get 11 or more saves in one match since Jennifer Manis in 2007. That's as Eric said. I had stat on hand. I did. I just wanted to make sure I clarified that.
Got a couple kind of about this season. I want to ask you about the Texas match in particular, because I said at the time that was a huge moment for this team. Because, obviously you had a tough spring season. You're playing a really good, talented Texas team, and you took it to them and dominated. And I thought that really was like I always felt like that was a statement by your team, right? Like, hey, we're here. We got some goals. We got a chip on our shoulder. Describe that match and how that set the tone for this season and this group that you all seem to be very close.
Yeah, I think you said it perfectly. We came in with, I think the energy of that game, like, was in the locker room and on the field was something that, like we had never felt before. And it was just like very much set the tone of like, we are a good team. Like we can take care of teams. And so, I think just, we had all that built up energy from the past season and all the work that we had put in over the summer. And it was just like finally time to release it. And so I think just, that chip on our shoulder and just being ready to go. And so I think, and just like, it was so great to send us into the season knowing like that we had that in our back pocket. Like we know that we can compete with the best. And, so it was a great game. Like I said, that energy and like the way that our team played, was so cool. And it was so awesome for me to be able to, watch it happen. And so, it was great. A great thing to be a part of for sure.
No doubt. And it set the tone. You've got some great wins this season. You won at Ole Miss, who could be a national seed. You beat Penn State here at home. You were supposed to play Carolina, but Mother Nature had different ideas. That had to be a little bit of a bummer. You didn't get a chance to play them in person, but still, a lot of results here. I know the conference tournament is on the horizon and coming up. Just talk about what's the keys here moving forward, because you got big matches from here on out. I know you got big goals ahead of you. What are the keys for this team here moving forward to accomplish your internal goals here as you get to postseason play?
Yeah, I think just like I said with Texas, like it gave us this knowledge that we can beat teams. And like with Penn State and Ole Miss, like, so I think it's just like every person taking responsibility for doing their job and playing the way that we know how to. I don't think we've left a match this year being like, they were just better. That happens sometimes. But there has not been a single match this year, which is frustrating walking away from a match knowing that you could have won, but it also gives you this enthusiasm because it's like going forward, we know we're going to face all these teams again in conference. And so we have this confidence of like, we can beat these teams. And so I think it's just lit a fire under us that we're ready to go and have this confidence that there's we genuinely feel like there's no game that we're just out of. And so I think that is the key, just keeping that fire with us and just doing our jobs to the best of our abilities and showing up for every match and playing a solid 90 minutes and just staying together as a team.
It's a young group too. I don't know if people realize. I didn't realize that until the other day on senior day, where there was like, wait, that's it? That's only seniors? Wow, these people can come back, you mean? That's also kind of cool that you're part of this nucleus here that still got a lot of experience. Talk about some of the other players that people may not be aware of, because you've had a lot of players step up both defensively and offensively that people, have stood out and been a big part of this so far as this season.
Yeah, no, I give all of the credit to our team. Like, there are some incredible players. I mean, like Daria Rajai has had an incredible season in the middle. I think she's like very much taken over a leadership role. I mean, from the beginning, like in the Texas game, it was like, this girl's not messing around. And so that's been awesome to see as she's kind of come into her veteran role. Our back line is so solid. Ariel Young being back. I mean, she's been on the team for 3 years, but being able to have her play and healthy. And then, just having, I mean, obviously Kristen and Ellie up top are just two solid people who we know will get the job done. But there's just been a lot of people who have like Sonia has been injured and then was stuck in Germany last year for COVID. So she's come in hot. But we just had a lot of people step up, and like we've had a lot of injuries this year. So it's been cool just to see people step into roles when they're needed and just give their all and see how it's gone. So yeah, it's been cool.
Yeah, no, it's tremendous, and it's exciting to watch you all, play together. Last question. You've got a lot of soccer left in your career, both in college, and I would assume you're probably going to try to shoot to play professionally. Is that a goal afterwards? And then whenever you do done playing soccer, what's your goals outside of soccer? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the hope is to continue playing after soccer, but then I want to stay in the athletic realm. I am studying sports and exercise science, and then we'll get my master's in kinesiology. So the goal the dream would be to be like a strength and conditioning coach for a college team. I think ours have had such a cool impact on my career. And so obviously I've gotten a firsthand look at that. And then I volunteer with this ministry that I love called Young Life. So it's either kind of the strength and conditioning side of things or like going into that ministry and following that side. So wherever I end up, but yeah, so the goal is one of those. But yeah, I would love for the athletic side of things to stay a part of my life for a long time.
Well, we just want you to stay between the net for now. We'll
Exactly.
we want to, and it's because it's a pleasure to watch you, and we look forward to watching you more and build your career. Thanks so much for taking the time. I know it's a busy time, an important time with obviously getting ready for the conference tournaments and hopefully beyond that. So thank you so much. And obviously your classwork, appreciate you. Like I said, we've enjoyed watching you in person and we wish you good luck here the rest of the way. And we'll hope to do this again down the road.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me, guys.
And thanks again to Caroline DeLisle for joining us here. And to listen to the full interview, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube page and like us there. We have the entire interview there where we talk about her family, which all went to Florida State, and she explains why she didn't follow that path. So it's some good stuff there, as well as her career in high school playing. What was the other sports, Bryson, she was playing in high school?
She played outside hitter in volleyball and quarterback in flag football.
Yeah.
Gosh.
So she's very athletic. But look, she's had an incredible season, as we talked about. And Jeff, right now, this is a team that, as we talked, obviously has one more regular season match. You got the conference tournament, which they qualify. They're going to play this weekend. We don't know the scenarios there yet, but this is a team that's primed in position to make it back to the tournament for the first time since 2017. And, they just got to finish the deal here.
Yeah, we've been talking about this. Again, Coach Tiffany with the schedule, right? They're 8-5-1 right now, but that schedule really helped them out early in the season. I still think like they look back at that South Florida loss as a real heartbreaker. That 2-1 loss that they had earlier in the year. They were so that the Houston loss, I think that started conference play. I think that also really hurt. And I remember talking to Coach Tiff, and she was like, we kind of, that one really hurt off the bat. But that said, here they are, Eric. They have one game left on Thursday, all right, against Cincinnati on ESPN Plus to finish out the regular season. They've won 4 in a row after that 3-game stretch against Memphis, SMU, and USF where they went winless. They've now won 3 in a row. Caroline's shut out those 3 opponents: Tulsa, ECU, and Temple in those three matches. UCF's outscored those 3 teams by a total of 10-0. They're set to start the opening round on Sunday in the American Championship. I think they're in good shape right now. But let me ask you, because you follow the RPI.
Yeah.
What do they have to do in the conference tournament to assure themselves of that bid?
Well, first of all, they got to win the Thursday game against Cincinnati. I think that's important. I really do. Because you look at the thing that's in UCF's favor. Chris Henderson, who we've had on the show before, covers women's soccer inside out. He's got them comfortably in. And one of the reasons why they has them comfortably in is UCF hasn't lost to a team that has an RPI worse than 63, which is impressive. Yeah. That's quality.
That is good.
They also have 3 wins against top 50 teams, including a win at Ole Miss, beating Penn State. And then Texas. Remember Texas, Jeff? We talked to Carolina about the Texas match. Remember how we said that was such a significant moment for this team to get off to that great start by blowing out Texas. Mm-hmm. That's a huge win there. They got 2 wins against the top 25. I think now, if UCF wins on Thursday, they're going to be at worst a 5 seed. If Memphis loses to SMU, UCF will host the first round game as a 4 seed, likely against Memphis, which is a huge rivalry.
That would be a huge boost for UCF, because remember they lost to Memphis earlier in the year 2-1.
Correct, and that rivalry goes way back to Conference USA.
That's an old Conference USA. There's some nasty games that have been
and that's going to be interesting. What happens moving forward? If those 2 teams still play when UCF goes to the Big 12, but that's another story for another time. I think if they were to win that opening round match of the conference tournament, they're a lock to be in. I think that right now Chris Henderson is projecting 4 teams in for the tournament. He's got UCF. I think SMU and South Florida are pretty much locks. I think UCF's pretty close to being in a lock. And then he's got Houston actually as this fourth team in. He's currently got Memphis out, who has struggled. They've lost 3 in a row as we record this. So I think if they win the opening round match against the Memphis or Houston, it could be a scenario where they go to Houston again, depending on how this plays out on the final day of the regular season. If they win that, I think they're in. If they lose that, they're going to sweat it out. But I still think they're in because here's a stat for you. UCF, you know what their strength of schedule ranking is right now?
I don't have it up in front of me, but it's pretty high, isn't
top
it?
10.
20, actually. 20.
20,
It's
okay.
20.
Yep.
And the updated 20. In comparison, Houston, 91st. Memphis, 112. UCF actually has more top 50 wins than Houston and Memphis. They equal as many top 50 wins as Houston and Memphis combined. So when you look at the bubble teams, UCF's resume stands out. So I think they're going to be in. That being said, I still think they got to win Thursday at Cincinnati, and then it would and keep this in mind, and I have to remind myself of this as well because it is confusing. Let's say they play in the conference tournament opening round and they lose on penalty kicks. Officially, that is not a loss.
Right.
That's a draw. And I think people have to remember, people forget that. I forget that. So that actually would not hurt them as a resume either. So I think they're in good shape, but they got to finish the deal. But they're playing really good right now. They're clicking on all cylinders. And I think they're playing the right way going in here after kind of a rough stretch. But again, I think it was an overrated rough stretch because their conference schedule is front loaded. And again, and Bryce and I were talking about this off the air. All those losses were by 1 goal. They could have easily won those matches. It wasn't like they weren't in the match. It just had some bad luck. Yeah.
Right, Bryson, because I want to ask you about this because, you know, the Houston game was 1-0 that started the conference season. Memphis was 2-1, and then the USF was 2-1. So there's a good chance that they could avenge, like Eric was saying, you know, at least one of them, possibly 2, right? So what are you looking for this team to do right now as they head into this final stretch? And what do you think, and what's going to be the key for them to, you know, kind of cinch this thing up? Because I think that this conference is wide open still. USF's in first place at 5-1-1. SMU's right behind the 4-1-2. Houston's 4-2-1. Memphis 4-3. ECU's having the 3-3-2 year. And there's UCF sitting at 3-3-1 with that, you know, and possibly could be 4-3-1 as we head out. So this conference is pretty tight right now, isn't it?
Oh yes, for sure. And the fact that, you know, that the losses they had against USF, SMU, Houston, or USF, Houston, and Memphis was 1 goal, and they drew with SMU is major evidence that UCF can win against those if they want to. And honestly, they should have won that USF game. There was a 1 goal that was completely open, that was just came off the foot wrong and missed. If that goal had gone in, UCF would have won in regulation. I will die. I will.
You're dying on that hill.
All right. So I personally, that's just something that breaks the wrong way. That stuff kind of happens. As we've mentioned, Caroline DeLisle has been having an amazing season. She has 70 saves, and if she gets 12 more, Jeff, she will actually end up being in the top 10 most saves in a season in UCF program history. We haven't seen as many saves in a season as that since 2009 with Alini Reyes. Mm-hmm. So some historic defense out of Caroline DeLisle right there. So having her as your goalkeeper is absolutely huge, especially when UCF when she has been getting shot at a lot as well. Yeah. So, but the thing that separates why the UCF has lost the games that it has is because of how they couldn't really get offense working. All right, like Kristen Scott and Ellie Moreno have kind of been the major offensive drivers. They kind of went into a bit of a cold streak during those stretch of matches at the beginning of the conference schedule. Now, but one thing that I noticed during these stretch of games is the emergence of a new possible scorer opportunity, and that's Katie Bradley. Katie Bradley scored in both games against East Carolina and Temple this week, and against Temple, she led the team in shots with 8. after not shooting more than one the entire season. I was talking with Coach
8 shots in a game is a lot. That's
yeah.
Eric. That's like Cal Jennings level stuff, right?
Yeah, being aggressive though, Bryson. That's what they got to be, right, Bryson? You talked to Coach Sahedek about that.
Yes, I was talking with Coach Tiff after the game, and she said that Katie told her, she wanted to score, and so that's where the opportunities kind of came. So I would say that you have Kristen Scott, Ellen Moreno, Katie Bradley. You maybe get a couple of other scores in there. That being aggressive on offense and getting there. Coach Tiff said that their offense was the best defense that they had in that tempo match where they won 5-0, and they got out and they scored like 3 goals in like the first 10.5 minutes. So succeeding on offense, I think, is going to be the key for them going into the conference tournament.
All right, so last word on this. We're in the last weekend of play. The regular season ends. All 8 remaining teams, 8 of the 9 teams that are in the American, are playing on Thursday night, all across from each other, basically. South Florida's playing Temple. Temple is 2-5 in the league. Let's just pencil in South Florida as a W there. And I know you talked about this a little bit before.
Well, and that's significant too, because that means they would host in Tampa. So if you're UCF,
that's
let's
not
say
so bad. Short bus ride.
Correct. In theory, if you get to that point, absolutely.
Women. Okay. Houston is playing Tulsa. Tulsa's in last place. If you pencil 3 points in for Memphis, that puts them in second place at 15. So then you have SMU. SMU is facing Memphis. That's the big game of the weekend right now because SMU is second.
Yes.
And Memphis, and they're playing at Memphis. Memphis is 4th. If SMU wins that game, then there's a chance UCF, like you said, Eric, would leapfrog them in the standings to get to the 4 seed. If it's a draw, what UCF really needs is SMU to win that game. Is really what you're saying.
Correct.
No draws. We need SMU to win it to knock Memphis down a peg, and obviously UCF take care of business up in Cincinnati at 7 p.m. So. Hey, ESPN Plus, this is where it comes in handy, folks. UCF against Cincinnati on Thursday, October 28th.
Big tournament implications here. Big tournament implications. And then it
should end in time for us to catch the end of the SMU-Memphis match, which starts at 8 o'clock Eastern that night. So it's going to be, ESPN Plus coming up big for us one more time again, isn't it, Eric?
It is, and this is a league that has a chance to be a 4-bid league for the first time ever. They've usually 3 has been the max. They're ahead of the Big 12. They're number 5 right now in conference RPI strength. This has been a strong year for the league. So these matches are pivotal from that standpoint for UCF and Memphis. I think Memphis needs that win in the worst way to get back into the field of 64. Otherwise, they might have to win the tournament to get into the field. So there's a lot of implications. And obviously the Goalkeeper of the Year award is going to be interesting. I think Caroline's right there with Cindy Martinez of South Florida for that Goalkeeper of the Year race. That's going to be fascinating. But the beauty of your UCF is when you have someone like Caroline DeLisle, you always have a chance to win. And as Bryson mentioned, it's up to the offense to stay aggressive and play aggressive and with a lead. Sometimes they fall too tentative, and that's where they get themselves in trouble. But let's hope for the strong finish.
The other thing, too, I wanted to get this in before we take a break. Memphis is in big trouble because remember after that hot start that they got off to, they started off 4-0 in conference. Since then, they've lost 3 in a row.
Yep, and that's dropped their RPI to 63. That's why they're
including a loss to ECU in ECU's last game of the season. ECU's not very good.
Right.
So, and then, again, they have that home match against SMU. There's a possibility Memphis could win 4 and then lose 4. And if that happens, UCF is sitting pretty at that point. All right, take a break. We come back. Bryson's going to stay with us. We're going to talk about everything else. Men's soccer, volleyball, lots of tennis to talk about as we go through the nightcap. Black Gold Banneret Podcast. Back after this. Hey, guys, it's Jeff. Just a little heads up here. So we recorded this on Wednesday afternoon, and I couldn't edit it until Wednesday night. And then after that, a little update on men's soccer. UCF lost to South Florida 4-3 in overtime on an extra time goal. But also Tulsa tied SMU. It was a scoreless draw. So when you get to the men's soccer part, just remember that UCF lost that game to South Florida. Tulsa drew SMU. So the current standings right now, Tulsa in men's soccer is in first place. with 19 points, 11-1-1 overall, 6-1-1 in the conference. UCF is in second place with 18 points, just 1 point back. So credit to SMU. They did UCF a solid there. So that's the current situation right now in the American men's soccer standings. So when we get to that point where we discuss it, just bear that in mind. All right. Sorry about the mess up. Try and get the podcast out a little earlier next time. All right, back to the show. All right, welcome back. Jeff, Eric, and Bryson here with you. Let's talk about UCF sports we just got done talking about women's soccer. We filled you in on football. I want to talk about real quick, Bryson, you do such a good job with our nightcap here. And the big story, I think, from this weekend as we spin things forward and look ahead to the weekend that's coming up, these sports are starting to wind down a little bit, and it's starting to get a little, the drama is starting to creep up, especially I think too with men's soccer right now. The position that they're in the standings, as I want to pull this up here to make sure
they're tied for first with Tulsa.
Tied for first place with Tulsa. They have a chance to obviously snag that number 1 seed regular season championship, which is always critically important. But Tulsa's going to make them sweat, aren't they, Bryson? So what's the outlook right now for UCF men's soccer as they head into this weekend?
Well, man, the good news is that they're coming off of a very handy win against Temple, where they took advantage of limited opportunities. Despite being outshot, the Knights were able to get 3 goals in and also shut out the Temple offensive. Gino Vivi had a great night, doubled his goal total, and if you look at the clips, they were very well executed. Luca Dorado also came up with a goal as well. But I think the big story on men's soccer, and why I am much more confident in this team than I was in the first half of the season, is the emergence of Tyler Levine at goalkeeper. Tyler Levine tied his career high 6 saves in that Temple game, and to see him really get himself settled in the goalie box, I think has been a major boon for this team. So as they go into this last stretch of schedule, they have the War on I-4 on Wednesday night, which is the day we're recording this. And then after that, they'll be playing SMU on Halloween night, so Nick Taylor will be going up against his former school. Once again, check out my profile on Nick Taylor on the blackandgoldbanneret.com. And then, plug. Yep. And then after SMU, the regular season finale at Tulsa. So unless Tulsa loses one of their 2 games before coming against UCF, the winner of the UCF Tulsa match is going to be the regular season champion for the American. So that game is going to
monster game.
Major implication have major implications going forward this season.
Elo, they're 8-4 right now. The RPI is sitting at 41. Are you comfortable with that right now?
Keep winning. Just keep winning.
No, is what you're saying.
No, keep winning. Many of the men's soccer sites.
That's also one more time.
Well, and SMU is big. I mean, these are big matches. These are resume. SMU, I've looked at a lot of the men's soccer sites. They're projecting 2 bids right now. It's UCF and Tulsa, but you can't count out SMU. Just keep
Tulsa,
winning.
By the way, their RPI 6.
Yeah, so they're probably
they're 11-1.
I think they're a lock. I think the American will be a 2-bid league, most likely. But yeah, no, keep winning. Keep winning. Was one slip up, that thing dropped. So I would say keep winning.
Yeah, that 3-2 win against Tulsa at home. God, that was such a huge win for UCF, especially after they came off that bizarre game against Memphis where they gave up 3 goals.
Yeah.
What a way to bounce back. I mean, I know they want to have that one back so bad, but I tell you, that was such a huge win against Tulsa, and it really springboarded this team. 3-0 at Temple, like you said, Bryson, and South Florida Wednesday. That match may or may not be over by the time you hear this. SMU on Halloween, and then at home that's senior day, and then that they got a good 5 days off before they travel out to Tulsa for that collision out there that they're going to have. The American Championship starts Wednesday, November 10th.
Yeah, that's the thing. If you're UCF, it's either you're going to have to win at Tulsa at some point. The question is, if you win at the regular season, you don't have to come back. That's the big difference,
right? Because the top seed hosts, unlike the women, where on the women's side we were talking about earlier, they kind of do it like the Patriot League does their basketball tournament, I think,
right?
Where the where the higher seeded team hosts each game, and then they just
the opening round, the semifinals will be hosted by the regular season champion.
The regular season. Okay, got you. Thank you for that. Yeah. So it's kind of like a 2-week tournament in that respect. So, all right, volleyball, Bryson. They had 4 matches on the road in 2 consecutive weekends, and they swept them. They swept all 4, including SMU and Memphis this past weekend. Got a little bit of a challenge from in the Memphis Tiger match, but in the end, this team just continues to roll. And their RPI right now, I'm pulling them up right now. They're
28, right?
27 right now, right behind Kansas. 16-6 for UCF right now. They're just the dominance in conference just continues at this point, doesn't it, Bryson?
Oh, yes, indeed. McKenna Melville is gonna McKenna Melville. She has been continuing to dominate the kill statistics. She led the team. She was tied for the team lead in digs in the SMU match and was second in digs in the Memphis match. This team is a well-oiled machine. They're just breezing through conference opponents like they're tissue paper, unless they're.
I get so scared when we get to this point. I'm like, when's the other shoe going to drop?
Well, the other, if you're going to talk about where the other shoe is going to drop, I will tell you, because on Halloween, on midday, Halloween's going to be a big day on UCF campus. Let me tell you. So, because on Halloween, they're at 1 p.m. they're going to be playing Wichita State, and I believe Eric has mentioned this before. The other 2 teams that have a fairly high RPI in the American are Wichita State and Houston. We beat Wichita State on the road. Now they're coming to us on Halloween. Mm-hmm. And so aside from the season ending match over at Houston, if I were to give say which matches of the volleyball team could potentially lose, then those are the 2 that I'm watching.
UCF's RPI right now, 27, Eric. Cincinnati's at 51. Then you have Wichita at 54. Then you have Houston at 63. So that's
tough. And that's why, I mean, if you're, teams like Wichita State, Cincinnati, for example, when you get UCF, that's almost a must win for them. Forget the conference race, just a resume standpoint. That is critical deal. You mentioned UCF, by the way. A couple quick stats here. Miami is 14 in the RPI. Why that is important? That is possibly where UCF could end up in the NCAA tournament, is go to Miami. Florida, by the way, which has started to turn things around, they're 29 in the RPI. We could see UCF Florida in the first round in Miami. That is a strong possibility, which could be the group of death.
Again?
Yeah, you know how creative they are when it comes to this stuff. But also, shout out McKenna Melville, who is among the nation's leaders in points and kills. Right now, UCF Athletics, the top 2 athletes this year is Caroline DeLisle and McKenna Melville by far. They have been phenomenal.
Let's go on McKenna watch real quick. She's 11th in the country in attacks per set, 12.41. That's swings. She is 7th in the country in kills per set, 4.85.
That's right. Renata Menchikova level. Nobody has gotten to that level since Menchikova, which they played in a different system back then, in point system.
Right.
Unbelievable.
She's 4th in the nation in total kills of 398. 7th in the nation in total swings with 1,018. How does her right arm even function? 5th in points per set with 5.55, and tops in the country in points.
It is arguably
455 that she is having. I know what you're going to say, Eric. She's having arguably the greatest individual season in UCF volleyball history.
Yes, at least since Menchikova in the 90s, late 90s, and they had a different point system. It's her Menchikova. It blows my mind away. Unbelievable. Yeah, she better be an All-American, or the sport.
She has to be first team All-American at this point. She just has to be.
Yeah.
If not, it's like, what are you even doing?
Yeah, well, then the credibility of the sport is what it is.
So and here's the other thing. Fans, you got to get down and see this.
Oh, yeah.
You got to get down here and see this. We got Tulsa on Friday, 7, Wichita State on Halloween. We're watching, again, like Eric said, the greatest individual season put together by a UCF volleyball player, arguably in the history of the program. You're only going to see this so many more times. Go ahead, Bryson. I'm sorry.
There is only six. I'll say this: there's only 6 more home games left. There's the 2 this weekend with Tulsa and Wichita State, and then there's a 4-game home stretch from November 11th to November 19th. So I would definitely recommend going out and seeing that. McKenna Melville, absolute beast. She is a grown woman, to borrow something from a certain YouTuber I watch. So, but I think a huge key though is for this team to succeed as far as nationally concerned, is that McKenna Melville you're obviously going to let McKenna cook, let her do her thing, but we have to make sure that the rest of the team is able to at least be able to remain in step
and be aggressive aggressive. Todd, remember Bryson, what Todd told you after the Houston loss? Houston was the more aggressive team. UCF was more tentative. And you better believe, especially Wichita State, they're going to come out aggressive because this is a big match for them. UCF has to match that. If they don't, that's where they get in trouble.
Oh, yes, for sure. People like Amory Watson, Marissa Noravak, Amber Olsen. We've seen some young guns, Caitlin Grimes, emerge. Everybody is going to need to step up and be able to support McKenna, because despite the great individual season she's having, all-time great, she cannot do this on her own. Yeah. And that is what's going to lead UCF to success nationally. Be aggressive and just be there for McKenna. If McKenna is the top of the pyramid, the rest of the team has to be able to get together and be able to support her.
Yeah, you know what we've seen too. Tali Marmon did not play in that last match against Memphis, but Mackenzie Chambers, man, she just very quietly slipped in, got a nice 5 kills on 12 swings. Amory Watson spent a little time over, in a little extra time in the rotation. She had 8 kills on no errors on 16 swings. That's a 500 on 16 swings. That's pretty good. So I think right now, with Tali, kind of on the shelf a little bit, we're seeing Anne-Marie Watson kind of shift her pie chart more from defense to offense. And I'm liking what I'm seeing, man. She's looking real good. And Narissa Moravec, once again, errorless performance on double-digit swings, 6 kills against Memphis. Boy, she's a quiet warrior, man. I just love watching her play. 16-6, 9-1 in conference. Like we said, next home match, Friday, October 29th against Tulsa, 7 p.m. And then also, don't forget, Halloween, Sunday, 1 p.m. against Wichita State. All right. Moving straight ahead, Bryson Turner. A little bit of fun this weekend also with tennis. The ITA regionals took place. Trey Hildebrand, regional finalist. Congrats to Trey. He lost in the final to Andres Martin in 3 sets of Georgia Tech, who's number 31 in the country. But Trey is positioning himself well, I think, for early season ranking here, and definitely the number 1 guy as we get ready to head into the spring season. No.
Oh yes, I completely agree with that. If Trey Hildebrand is not nationally ranked in the next ranking that comes out, then that ranking system is flawed, because not just in singles but also in doubles with Bogdan Pavel. Hildebrand and Pavel are number 3 in the country right now as a doubles pair, and with that. I think it's going to be a very good season for Trey. However, I do want to make sure I highlight freshman J.C. Roddick, who made it all the way to the quarterfinals.
Yeah, John's nephew, right?
He's a freshman. Yes, he is the nephew of head coach John Roddick. And he managed to upset number 85 ranked Florida State redshirt freshman Louis Peroy in 2 sets. He ended up losing in the quarterfinals to a junior from North Florida. So this is a guy that while Trey Hildebrand is clearly the number 1, I think the number 1 on this team, I would just pay a little bit of attention to J.C. Roddick, because I think we could see him really make some strides this year, especially as far as freshmen go.
All right. And then women's tennis also, he had a little bit of action. They were in, not in the ITAs, but they were invited up to Georgia, up to Athens to play at the Georgia Invitational. It wasn't the best of weekends in terms of singles, but we a little bit of help from doubles too, though. Bryson, they look pretty good with Maria Mattel and Nandini Sharma going 2-1 in their 3 matches.
Yes, indeed. Doubles was definitely the highlight. I would say. Look, Florida, Georgia, and Princeton are very good tennis programs. Very great. You see them. You see
3 of the best in the country, no doubt.
Yes, plenty of them in the top and in the national rankings. And this is one of those times where in the fall they kind of play around with some things because spring is kind of their main time. So invitationals like this allow you to kind of see where the team stacks up. And, it makes sense why they would lose as many matches as they did. Is it disappointing? Yes. But it kind of shows, I think, where they need to improve going into the spring. That said, for Mattel and Sharma, absolutely well done going 2-1 in that invitational. So I wouldn't take this down to heart too much. We're going to be seeing them in the men and probably a couple of men and women players selected to the ITA Fall Nationals, which are going to be in San Diego from November 4th to the 7th. And then the women's tennis has one more invite, which is in North Florida on November 12th to 14th to conclude the fall schedule. So we're starting to wrap up the fall schedule with tennis. And I think that don't take too much of it to heart, because the spring is where things are really going to get, I guess, in terms of, I want to say it matters more, but that is the time when tennis.
It just matters more.
Yeah. I didn't want to say that.
To quote some of our friends from another conference. All right, let's wrap it up here for the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Go ahead, Bryson. You had one more. Yeah. One
more promotion. Cross country. The AAC Cross Country Championship is going to be at 7:50 a.m. on ESPN Plus on Friday. So if you're able to get yourself up, that is certainly something to watch. We have a great young cross country program. Valerie Lastra is going to be there. She's been breaking records this year. Eric and I talked to Anne-Marie Blaney, which you can watch on our YouTube, on our Black Gold Banneret.
Yeah, in fact, let's listen. Instead of you, with all due respect, Bryce, instead of you talking cross country, let's play a clip of Anne-Marie here talking about Valerie Lastra and this young UCF roster, which she's gotten to know.
Is Valerie Lastra, who was the freshman of the year in the American in the spring, which is kind of a weird year. She's having a unique year in that she's having 2 freshman years, because they had their cross-country year in like January, February, and now they're having their normal cross-country year. They're getting set for the conference championships and all that. You've obviously followed a little bit because you are aware of what she's been doing. You can relate to her, probably one of the few that can. What have been your impressions on her from what you know, and describe what she's going through as a freshman? And there are people that are comparing her to you in a lot of ways, which is obviously a compliment. You're the standard now, which that in itself has to feel weird, but yet you have to be proud that people are, hey, this is the standard now, and somebody's trying to meet it.
Yeah, I mean, I hope she takes it as a compliment, sees it as some fun competition, because I feel like I talked to the UCF ladies at the beginning of the pandemic or last year, and it just was so cool to like see the new faces on the team and just kind of hopefully share a little bit of my story, learn a little bit about their story. And yeah, I mean, I hope she's excited about it and having fun with it. I'm not really sure how the seasons work as far as COVID does, because that's confusing to me, being out of it and then whatnot.
It's confusing to us too. Don't worry. It's confusing to us, and we're covering it.
Yeah. So, yeah, I hope that she just sees all these little successes that she has now and just keeps building on top of those, because I think that is really how I was really successful, was just kind of making those little improvements and small victories on my end personally, and then as well as with your team, and then kind of having those to move you forward and reach for bigger goals. As long as, she can stay in it and just still have fun with it. I could see her as, a senior. It's very hard to make it all 4 or 5 years in athletics. So As long as she can stick it out and loves it, I think that she'll break a lot of records, to be honest.
Last year's actually freshman time is now the ninth in the tank 6K is now the ninth fastest in program history, which, by the way, you hold the top 7 times in this 6K. But Lastra is just one of many young people on the cross country team. If you look at the roster, while COVID does make things a little bit like, I wouldn't say misrepresented, but it certainly does complicate matters. But according to the designation, all but I think 4 of the cross country team are freshmen. Freshmen? Have you ever been part of a team that is that young? And how do you think that would impact the dynamics of the team going now and going forward?
I mean, I would say it's always really good to start out each year with a pretty decent sized freshman squad. It's really hard to get transfers into the school. You'll never have as many transfers as you do freshmen. So the bigger the freshman group, I would say the better. Thinking back, I definitely was probably the last. I remember there was me and one other girl left by our 5th year, which not everyone takes a 5th year, but definitely even by my senior year, a lot of people don't make it through the whole college circuit. So I think starting out with a big freshman group allows everyone to kind of build together and just kind of figure out each year, like, you're more familiar with who you're running with. And then you're just going to continue to add on more younger people who will just hopefully join in. And then that's how you create that really successful culture, I feel like, on a team, and which I think Coach Jackson is definitely building. He looks like he has a blast with them and vice versa. So I just see like a really happy relationship there as well, which I think is huge. So as long as they keep doing that, the program will just continue to build, which is what I see. And, UCF has been getting a lot of recruits and new teammates. So that's good, because if you miss out on, say, a freshman recruiting class, you get one or even none, then it's hard to build on that. So when you lose a whole group of seniors, it definitely makes it a lot harder, less bodies, and cross country is kind of all about getting the top few across the line. So, yeah.
You mentioned you spoke to them prior to the pandemic. So you obviously met Dana Boone, the head coach, and then obviously Brian Jackson, you speak of, who runs cross country. What's your impression on Coach Boone and Coach Jackson and what they're doing at UCF?
Yeah, so I think I met with Coach Jackson and the team via Zoom. So everybody was kind of in their dorm rooms, and we just kind of talked about their up and coming season. So I would make it the 2020 fall season, where I think Coach Jackson wanted me to just talk to them about how, like, even if there's not an official cross country season that was allowed to happen, what that would look like for them. And I basically told them, I've been training. I haven't had that many race opportunities, and usually people find the racing opportunities a little bit more fun than just the training part, because it's kind of, you get to see your results of the work that you've been putting in. And I just kind of was like, I told them, don't lose faith. We'll be out there on the course, and you just want to be ready when the time comes. And that's what I said. Coach Jackson, I feel like, made it really fun for them, and hopefully kept their spirits. It seems like kept their spirits pretty high. I'm not too bummed about not having as many races as they would have liked. But I think they got a few races in there still. So it was really cool to talk to them. And then I did stop by, I believe, on the UCF campus and meet Coach Boone in person. She was probably like, who is this girl with like her parents or something waiting outside my office? But I just kind of wanted to introduce myself. I have a lot of memories, probably good and bad, in the coach's office. So I was like, I just want to see what it's like to be in there one more time, and just see how, the team's doing. And I really like what all of the coaches are doing there. And it's really cool to see, because I want success for the UCF cross country and track programs to continue. That was my hope, was to maybe pave the way for future athletes and show them like what you can do, whether you're going to a school that's well known for their cross country and track programs. You don't necessarily have to go to one of those to make it to nationals or whatnot. So I really hope that all the other girls can just kind of see that instead of looking at me as like competition. Because I definitely would talk to them, any of them, anytime they wanted to. They can reach out to me because social media makes it so easy. So yeah, that's what I told the team when we met on Zoom. I was like, feel free to message me about anything, because I do a lot of running and a little bit of working, but other than that, I'm pretty flexible and love talking about running with other like-minded people. So definitely wanted to leave that door open, and I follow a bunch of the girls now after meeting them. So it was pretty cool.
Nice save there, Eric. I appreciate that. All right, 3, 2, 1.
That is Anne-Marie Blaney, who, by the way, will be a contributor to the Black and Gold Bannerets coverage of cross country alongside Bryson Trey. How about that, huh?
Oh, yes. I am very excited. I was texting with her. I texted with her yesterday, and she's very excited. She definitely she loves the idea of contributing to it. And me, listening to her talk about this, like, trust me when I say she knows what she's talking about.
A lot more than the three of us combined.
Has no doubt.
Sure. So yeah,
There's no doubt.
So yes, so 7:50 a.m. on Friday, ESPN Plus, the American Athletic Conference.
Get your coffee.
Oh yes, for sure.
Get your coffee. I may or may not be streaming it in the car as I drive my kids to school.
And then Anne-Marie will Anne-Marie will provide some analysis for us, and you can check out our full interview with her on our YouTube page as well. We talk about what she was up to. She qualified for the Olympics and a bunch of other stuff. That's also on our YouTube page. So make sure you subscribe and like.
Yes, on YouTube. And by the way, Night Shift, some changes coming up with Night Shift, some good changes. We are going to be live Night Shift after the Temple game on not just our YouTube channel, but also on Twitter and Facebook. So all of your platforms, whichever platform you prefer, you can watch Night Shift on that platform following the Temple game. And I'm also going to start putting it, I'm now able to put it on our podcast feed. So we're going to start having a Night Shift.
You've all been asking,
which we'll be putting up. You guys have asked, we have listened, and we are delivering. And actually, we do have to honestly thank JP Gilbert, because he gave me the boot in my tail that I needed to try to actually get this done.
That's what he tends to do.
I know. So we're going to do that now. Don't forget, Night Shift will be a podcast that will go up right after the live show is done on our podcast feed. So make sure you subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts, on Apple Podcasts or Spotify if you're an Android user. And also, if you already subscribed, leave us a rating. Let us know how we're doing. We thank you so much for listening. And thanks again to everybody who reached out to me after my health troubles this past week. I really, really appreciate it. We got to go. For Bryson and Eric and Drew, I'm Jeff. This has been the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Follow us on Twitter, UCF_Banneret, Facebook.com/Black and Gold Banneret, blackandgoldbanneret.com. Enjoy the weekend. We'll see you next week.